And we're live, guys and gals. How's it going, Guru Nation? No, this is not after dark. This is before dark, not quite. It's dusk. The bats are flying around soon. Do you guys get bats in Phoenix? We got a bunch over here
I think we
in
have
Yuma.
bats. Yeah.
Well, this is Robert Goldman, aka the sponsor monster. You are the perfect. This is serendipity because I invited you on so that we can just have a pre-meeting before we go live. And I'm like, listen, we can just go live right after because I have to get video 9 out of 10 done for the golden era of sites. I have a whole outline for all 10 videos. I didn't even know what number 9 was until after I invited you. And it's perfect for you. Of all 10, it's the one you should have been on. So
Love it.
here's the title. The
All right.
next CRO war is happening at the site level.
Poof.
All right. CROs aren't just managing trials anymore, they're acquiring sites. And if you're a standalone site, you might be a target. At some point, you might be a threat, or you might be roadkill for the CRO. Like, it's getting wild, man. And these site networks, only 10% of sites. I got access to this top secret document that got sent to me, and I analyzed the hell out of that thing. I used AI to analyze it too. And that's kind of what kind of gave birth to this 10-part series.
Yeah.
But only 10% of sites right now are part of a network. I predict by the end of this decade, so by 2035, roughly, plus or minus 3 years. You never know with macroeconomic forces what happens, plus or minus 3 years. But I think it's around 10 years. You're going to have that number be closer to 35 or 40% part of a site network because they're getting aggressive. And then the CROs are getting aggressive too. Private equity are getting aggressive. They're throwing billions of dollars around now. The SynXL just got bought for 1.5 billion a couple
Mhm.
weeks back. They only had 18 sites. Now they're
Wow.
very difficult psychiatric trials, and I think they expanded to other areas, but they specialize in complex trials that other people don't do. But the CROs are getting in on the game, and the CROs not only are acquiring sites, but they're acquiring tech. Because here's where you like we have to like project forward a little. This decade, it's gonna be golden decade for sites, right? I predict. I want to get
Mhm.
your thoughts too. But at the end of that decade, we enter a new paradigm. I really think that's an AI enabled, tech enabled. The landscape's going to look different. It'll look the same, but totally different as far as the economics of who's making the money. And I think the CROs are trying to become those companies that are going to be relevant in 2035. They're
Mhm.
doing that today. They're building tech, they're acquiring tech, and it's not just doing it to sell to sponsors like here's our ePro, and it's not something crappy. No, this is like site focused tools now and data driven solutions, not just for sponsors, but for themselves to kind of
Yeah.
help them scale everything. Like once they have everything together, scale it. This is at least how I interpret it. I don't know if I'm wrong or missing anything. You are, like I said, this serendipitous. You're the perfect person for this topic. So,
Yeah. I
what do
mean,
you
I'm
think?
just one opinion, but
Well, not every opinion is the same value, and yours is high value.
all right, well, I appreciate
You're
that.
the only guest besides Chris on this 10-part series. Chris was on for one of the budget talks,
Yeah.
and that was not serendipitous. That was planned. The yours is
This was
serendipitous.
this was it was. I mean, Dan, I think CROs struggle to stay relevant, you know, and they're always trying to find something that, or at least if they're not, they should be trying to find something that differentiates themselves from the competition. Whether it's, I don't want to talk about any specific CRO, but
Yeah.
they all have some sort of, many of them are very, very similar, but there are some out there that are maybe smaller that have some niche tagline and, makes them different. Or and then when you look under the hood, now it's like, okay, well, we do, RBQM, and we do it a very unique way, and it can save
Mhm.
you 10%, and um, we have strategic partnerships with this, and we run it that way, and we're very, site centric, and we focus on the site experience and the patient experience, and we give you the white glove service. So all I'm saying is these are a bunch of platitudes, that each CRO uses to differentiate themselves from the competition. So I
Yeah.
think like site acquisition and it is the natural progression to say, hey, we're a one-stop shop. You don't have to go anywhere else. Just come to us. We got your sites. They're already vetted. We can
Yeah.
contract, one budget for all of the sites because we own them.
Yeah.
And obviously, the assumption, I mean, so it's attractive to a sponsor in that sense where, we can come in and be like, okay, that makes sense. But at the end of the day, Dan, I mean, again, this is just my opinion. It's not representative of what I'm going to do or am doing in my endeavors, but I'm going like FSP, man. I mean, I'm going to outsource certain parts of my studies, and I'm going to insource and control the most important parts of my studies because quite simply just the track record is not there. I mean, the attrition rate and the revolving door aspect of the industry with the CROs is something that can't be, it has to be said. And somebody else just on LinkedIn the other day wrote a big article about, she was there for 20 years at a CRO and
Hmm.
here's what sponsors need to know. And I mean, I read this stuff and I'm like, do people really not know this?
I saw
And,
another thing today. I was gonna send it to you, but I got busy. It's this
uh,
biotech CEO, and
mm,
he said, I had 15. I interviewed 15 CROs. I didn't
mm,
hire any of them because none of them were truthful about their weakness. None of them talked to me about their
right.
weaknesses. His point is, everyone's now offering the same stuff. Not to mention, tech is enabling like what the CROs used to do that was special, which was manage complexity,
Hmm.
is actually becoming slightly easier with tech. Like you can automate workflows. Even
Hmm.
at the site now, we could automate a patient to schedule themselves to come in. Like this stuff used to be more complex. So if like look at the data, I have data this time. All right.
Hmm.
Icon, the big three CRO site network strategies. Icon, they have something called ExcellaCare.
Hmm.
They own or manage 100 sites globally, and they enroll 60% faster than standalone sites. IQVIA has AvaCare, and then they have their unified tech platform, One Home for Sites, which includes their own tech. IQVIA is trying to build the AWS of clinical research, the Amazon
Hmm.
Web Service. So not just the CRO, but operating system. Then the last one, PPD, owns or operates 160 sites with access to 20 million plus patient records. So this is not the
You're missing
business.
a big one too, though. Not to
Who?
interrupt you. Syneos, they own Eligo
There
Network.
you go. There
Yep.
you go. See, they all are doing something.
Yep.
And the reason I think they're doing it is the biggest variable in all this stuff in the solution is the sites.
Hmm.
And why rent them? Why not just own them? Like
Yeah.
any business person knows it's better to own than to rent. I mean, you can try to time it. Now it's better to rent, but long term, you want to own.
It all comes down to what, Dan?
Control.
Control. There you
Yeah.
go. There you go. And sites in the traditional model, they're 1099 independent contractors or they're a consultancy and it's like I can't tell you how to run your business, you can't tell me how to run my business. We have a contract to agree to deliverables, but the way in which I produce that deliverable is kind of none of your business, right?
Right.
So I mean, it's a very interesting concept here, and I don't personally think that that's the ticket. It might be. I'm waiting for a CRO to come to me and say, you know what, we want equity in your company and we're going to give you a cash position up front to put skin in the game in a big way. It's not, oh well, we have equity in your company and because we have equity, we want it to succeed. That's lip
Hmm.
service. That sounds great in theory, but you know what, put your money where your mouth is. Put a cash position in front, subsidize the entire value of the contract, and and then you really are risk sharing, and then maybe there's some sort of like royalty agreement.
Like
um
royalty pharma. Here's the problem with that. I like that idea.
yeah,
In our industry, the majority of trials don't make it. So it's like just bad. Even
but
if you're picking
why don't they
blind.
make it, Dan? Why don't they make it truly?
Well, they.
Like
I
you
mean,
and
most
I,
of the time. So I know
What?
why most trials fail, but not like why most trials once they do meet enrollment and go
Mhm.
to FDA, most don't get approved by the FDA. That's out of the control of the CRO.
Well, I
Most
beg
of
to
the
differ.
time, I know you've
I
been
beg
through
to differ.
some shit. You,
I mean, you and I both know a situation
I know,
where,
but what percentage of that is FDA rejections? It's not the
well,
majority,
you don't know, but I'm saying like what FDA is rejecting NDA submissions for a reason, not because the data is so phenomenal.
right? Like
So
usually, there's no
so my
benefit
point,
to the patient, right, for the FDA.
well, it's a benefit risk and it's a statistical purview, but I guess
Yeah,
the point I'm trying to make here is like if your asset gets to phase 3 where you're submitting an NDA to get to the point where you're talking about approval or disapproval, right?
yeah,
Are we really going to sit here and say that the drug wasn't effective or maybe wasn't effective? I mean, it wouldn't have made it to phase 3, Dan, right? So my point is it comes down to the data, it comes down to compliance, it comes down to your patient selection, it comes down to site performance, it comes down to QTLs and KPIs and oversight and management and having good
yeah,
data and not
yeah.
a disparity
Well,
between
I
your
mean, at
intent to
that
treat and
point,
per protocol populations. I'm just saying like it's a quality issue, Dan. It really
no,
is. Like,
I'm with that. I
yeah,
just think if you do too much skin in the game, the CROs, which by then will just become tech companies and site networks, basically, and the CRO business will be like the throwaway business, just like Google. 10 years from now, no one's Google searching anything, but Google's still going to be around. They're going to be
yeah.
Gemini, YouTube, Google Cloud Service. I think it's the same thing with the CROs. They're monitoring stuff and all that. It's just throwaway. Like everyone has that. But if you do too much skin in the game, essentially this entity becomes an investor. Like they're thinking like an investor.
Which is that necessarily a bad thing?
No, but investors say no more than they say yes. So you would get a
But
bunch of
no to what?
sponsors
No
not
to what?
finding CROs to do their work for them.
But no to what? Like,
No
what
to
are
the
they saying no
investment.
to?
No to the investment. This is too
Then
risky.
then then that's fine. So that tells you something about your program, right? And
Right.
maybe that's a hard truth you need to listen or
But
hear
isn't
about.
that negative GDP overall for the industry?
Well,
Like,
of course it
yeah.
is. But I mean, on the other hand, though, is it like, are we going to put 20, $30 million up front just to know that we're going to fail or get a
Yeah.
rejection?
I think your proposition can work. It doesn't have to be the only way. Like
No, I'm not.
it could be and.
And
Um,
I guess, Dan, what I'm trying to say is, I think from like let's maybe like pull back a minute and go like at a higher level.
yeah.
What I'm trying to say is, CROs are notoriously like, oh, well, if we hit this milestone and we do this and we do that, like we should get a bonus. It's like, what? You're getting a
Mm,
bonus for doing your job? I mean, okay, you like,
yeah.
or like the idea of risk share is, oh, here's a percentage of the contract value and you can spread it across certain KPIs. And if we miss it, we pay you. I mean, at the end of the day, is a $500,000 or even $1 million penalty, right? Over, I'm talking like a phase 3 trial context here for the viewers, right?
Worth it for like $100 million project.
No, especially to get it to the point it's like peeing in the ocean and expecting the pH to change. Like, really? I
Well,
mean,
I knew you were the right guy for this episode.
so I'm just, I'm just saying it's like you've got to be realistic. So when I'm saying like skin in the game, I mean, there's obviously a ton of ways of doing this,
Yeah, but
but
you're proposing like radical change. But I do see by 2035, they are more equipped to say yes to those kind of things than today.
but
Today,
Dan,
it's all
there's
about cash.
but
Let's,
Dan, like I can tell you, but like in off like backstage we can talk, but I can tell you there are CROs doing this. Like I right
big
now.
ones, big ones.
No, 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 not big ones. No,
I
they're not
remember
big ones.
IQVIA used to do this when they were quintiles.
I mean
They would
there are some big ones that will do the risk share in the term of like here's a percentage,
yeah,
like we'll
yeah.
give you X percentage and you can spread it across whatever KPIs you want, site
Oh no, they
startup,
all do
right?
that though. Yeah,
Right. But again, at the end of the day, it's like what is your $500,000 going to do for me if you don't miss or if you miss this KPI,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, I mean, and I don't know if it's like really a radical thing, Dan. I mean, again, if I'm a CRO
I mean,
and
Royalty Pharma does that
but like
with their
look at
tech.
Matt's comment
Gotta
here.
hire good CRCs.
Okay, so if I'm a
Man, today's
CRO,
CRCs are tomorrow's CRAs, which is segue into the next topic anyways.
Exactly. And so if I'm a CRO and I have good sites and I'm confident in my deliverables and I have great staff that I empower to do great work, why wouldn't I put skin in the game? And
Hmm.
by the way, and again, you got to remember, and Dan, this is very important to say in the context of the audience, like I'm thinking from a small pharma, small biotech perspective where
Sure.
VCs and PE is tight. Like the money is there, but it's not there. And
Yeah.
it's like right
Yeah.
now we're in a very so I'm just saying if a CRO truly wants to attract work and be part of innovation and not just worry about acquisition and focus on the top 10, and you really want to start getting these phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 studies, and even to some degree maybe some preclinical work,
Okay,
you
but do
know
you not
like
think that if the CRO owns the site network, that they have more control over startup times, first patient in,
no,
deviations, or
no,
you think it's the same? You're just shifting the chairs around, but it's the same people.
Dan, exactly, you're diluting the chaotic environment. That's all you're doing.
I mean, there's got to be efficiency somewhere, though, like
Well, I mean, efficiency
site
in terms of
selection.
okay, fine, fine. Study startup timelines are probably more efficient, right?
Yeah,
Budget negotiations and contract negotiations are probably more efficient.
sure.
But Dan, let's pivot back to the bid defense.
Yeah.
Let's pivot back to the bid defense. I mean,
Huh.
I have never seen I mean I'd be happy with 50%. 50% of the team you propose at the bid defense stage and I award you the work, those people have either resigned, gotten promoted, or they're off the study or they're allocated. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. In the proposal, I have these CVs, and now you're telling me 75% of these people are unavailable. They're
But
unavailable.
I think at sites there's gonna be less turnover because there's no travel, there's no
Well, Dan, listen,
like
I hope you're right, but on the other hand, you made a point 5 minutes ago, and let me
yeah.
remind you, you said
Mm.
CRCs are the next CRAs.
Exactly. And
So
this
so
is
how
Matt.
how how is site attrition not any different than CRO? I mean,
Because here's why.
everybody's
Here's what
trying to
I'm
get a
doing.
go
No, no,
ahead.
check this out. Check this. So Matt, this is answers your question and Roberts at the same time. All right. We're at Human Clinical Trials, we're building a small site network. I think we'll have the goal is to have 10 sites regionally before we sell to a whoever. If a CRO wants to buy it, so be it. Most likely it's going to be a PE that then adds 30 more and then sells it, but that becomes someone else's problem at that point, right? Point is, my CRCs right now, they know this. And the ones that want to be monitors, I'm telling them, you don't, I got good news for you, Luis. You know, Luis,
Of
you don't need to
course.
go be a monitor. You don't want to work for these guys. Stay here, do QA here. As soon as we get more sites, guess who I'm sending out to those sites to do QA? You. You've essentially become from a CRC to a monitor organically within the same umbrella and the same culture. That's how it's going to work. So it's going to be different than what you're accustomed to as a small sponsor, dealing with these musical chairs of CRAs just job hopping. I think
But
this
but
is
but Dan, you're an N of one, bro.
not, but I
That's the
think
problem. And also I will and again, I'm not discrediting anything, but I want to just say, I mean, look at your experiences and my experiences. We've really held almost every role you can think of, right?
yeah,
I mean, at least from a site CRO and sponsor perspective,
yeah,
I can, I have, and I think it's really important, and maybe this is where the tech.
and tech vendor too.
Yeah, and that's why I think maybe the tech and everything's going to change this paradigm. But up until like today, like I'm talking, I don't know what the future holds, right? You probably have a better, you probably have a better,
Yeah,
grasp on that. But my take really is, I think, you know, if you if you don't have like, what's my famous saying, Dan? If you've never been the soldier, you can't be the general,
general.
right? So my point is like, and again, no, I'm not
First,
saying Lewis is
first,
not. I'm not saying that he's not capable of this. He's great.
he's
He's a
a
very
soldier
smart
right
guy.
now. He's a soldier.
I know him very well. Well, he's a site soldier, which is very
Yeah,
different than being a CRO soldier, which is
correct,
very different
correct,
from being a sponsor soldier. So what I'm
correct.
trying to say is like, it's good in theory, but from a career development perspective, You know, and and I'm not saying you have to go that
So
trajectory.
you're
I'm
saying
just
it's
saying
not as easy as I propose. Like you're saying
it's
what I'm proposing sounds good on paper, but when you actually do it
it's a lot
in
more
real life,
nuanced.
unless
It's
the
a lot
tech, like you said,
unless
unless.
the tech is the thing that's filling in the gaps, because again it's like
Mhm.
if you've not been, you know, if you don't understand like how to truly be a monitor and be held accountable and write those reports and juggle
Yeah,
like, you know, Ashley's watching, shout out to Ashley. I
mhm.
mean, this is her, she knows exactly what I'm
That's what
talking
she's
about.
doing.
You're juggling 8 to 10 sites. You're writing monitoring reports. You're dealing with, you know, IP issues. You're triaging this, that, and the other thing. And I don't care how all these. Oh, we're going to take away all these problems. The CRA burnout rate is insane.
But you don't think
So
by 2035
I'm
the
not talking about the
workflows are
future.
automated? Oh, you're talking about right
I'm
now.
talking about right now. I'm
Yeah,
talking about
right.
right
I
now.
agree with you right now. I
But
agree.
maybe the future. But I still think, Dan, like if so, you take a guy in the future, 10 years from now, who has you eliminate all of those experiences that Ashley's going through right now, right? Pressure,
Yes,
expectation, and
yes.
exposure, right? Let's
Well, I
highlight that
talked I
comment.
talked about this yesterday. So what Matt said,
You know, no, no, what
taking the
Ashley
push.
says. I
Oh,
think, you know, yeah, yeah.
pressure, expectations, and exposure is
It,
different.
that's the whole, and that's what I'm saying. So like when you progress to a higher level role, and you're like, okay,
Yeah,
Luis now is QA director over 10 sites,
yeah, yeah.
the exposure and expectation of what CROs expect of you, because now you're providing a service to your client. And then when you go on the other side, now I'm the client. It's like, wait a minute, you're not entitled to be frustrated. I get to be frustrated. I'm paying your
You're the
bills.
sponsor.
I'm the sponsor. Right. So like it's like I tell, like, I mean, literally, like, you are not entitled to be frustrated. Like,
And here's
don't.
another aspect to your bear case, because I like
Yeah.
playing both sides of this.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
So the bear case of this is what you're saying plus more. So look, what is happening at sites right now, I'm very mindful of this. I think there's no way around it. We have to do it because it's just way too efficient. You
Yeah.
streamline everyone. So you, Luis, you do only regulatory. You, Katie, you do only ClinOps. You do only QA. You do only patients. This person's only going to schedule patient. That's it. No one else knows how to do the other stuff. So that by the time all these sites consolidate, you have all these departments, but the individuals themselves are not generalists. They're just hyper specialized. And when the sponsor needs somebody, to go around, this is kind of what Matt's talking about. He's talking about Raiders, but this is the bear case for tech and consolidation and streamlining is, yeah, it's efficiencies,
So
but the individual skill set dilutes.
So Dan, you one of the biggest things that since I've known you, which is becoming a while now, is you always like were very a big proponent of being a generalist.
Yeah.
How so now your position's changing. Now it's no
No,
longer like it's not
no,
changing, or it is changing.
it's not. I still think that's valuable.
Okay,
I
right
just
now.
think it's
Right
gonna be
now,
rare. Yeah, it's gonna be
but not
rare.
later.
It'll be even more valuable later because no one's gonna be a generalist. That's the problem. It becomes either the corporations have to make that happen, despite how easy it is to pull this lever, make more money, and just specialize everyone. But there's a core group I think you need to remain generalists.
So those are the people that are entering the industry kind of in the next 2 to 3 years that are going to
Yeah,
be
yeah,
in that 2035 cohort,
yes,
right?
yes.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with you there. I mean, it makes sense, and your guess is
There'll
as
just be fewer
mine.
of them then than now, but they will be
Yeah,
even more important. So here's a hint for anyone watching right now. Don't let yourself get specialized. I'm not saying to fight it at work, but always try to do extra stuff outside of your domain because somebody's gonna need that. Well, somebody like Robert's gonna be on the sponsor side in 2035 saying, nope, not that person. No, not that one. Okay, yes, this one.
yeah. So don't stay in your lane,
Yeah.
Guru Nation, you know?
I mean, stay in it, but don't stay in it.
Yeah, like, just swerve a little bit and then come back in,
That's right.
you
That's
know?
right. This, I
Yeah,
mean, I think this is gonna be interesting, man. I don't know how the doctors are gonna like working for. That's another thing we haven't talked about, and I can see that turning left as
well,
well.
I think we got to get our buddy Dr. Ali Imran on. You know,
Yes.
he's the first PI that's board certified in AI
Wait,
use
next
in
after
medicine.
dark, is he down,
Oh yeah, I mean he's absolutely. We
or
just
did
have to
we
let him
already
know.
promise someone else next after dark? I can't remember anymore.
I can't remember the order either, But
Who cares
we'll
about
get
orders?
him on. He'll love to opine on this situation. And it remains to be seen. I think it's going to be an interesting next 10 years. Um, Things are definitely changing. I mean, Dan, you know me. I've been saying this for a long time, and everyone's like, "Oh, well, Robert, we've been hearing this for 10 years." Well, great. I'm still saying it, and it's happening before our very eyes, you know?
So okay, but what's gonna happen? So there is a world. So it's my prediction. Even if it's at the max end of it, let's say half of sites join site networks, that
Hmm.
still leaves 50% independent. But in major markets like Miami, Chicago, New York, Phoenix, LA, I don't think if you're an independent site there and it's dominated by a dozen site networks, I don't know if you're ever getting a trial. If you're in a place like Yuma, I think you can do fine remaining independent. This is going to put pressure on the independent sites to have to figure out not what they're doing today, but what they're doing 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Because if they don't adapt, that's not necessarily the best thing for them to do.
You know
Like
what I'm hearing you say?
what?
Unionization of sites.
Nah, I'm not pushing for that shit.
I mean,
I'm
if
too much
that,
of a capitalist for that.
but I agree. I'm with you, but I'm just saying, like, what are these private sites? They're gonna have two choices: get on the train and go, or
Exactly.
get left at
Exactly.
the station. So
Exactly.
what's
That's
the
my thing.
choice? Join the union or not join the union?
Well, and
Honestly,
so by join the union, you mean join a site network.
yes.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I'm just giving an analogy,
No,
not in the literal
I
sense of like
agree.
CRCs are now like in a union, right? No.
I
Um,
agree. But I
but
think
I'm just
every
saying,
independent site should think of themselves as how can they leverage tech to scale, to potentially scale their operations within their city if it's big enough, but then immediately adjacent to it. I think that's the only way to survive.
yeah,
Even if you don't want to do it, I mean, tough shit. You know, you can stick your head in the sand and pretend nothing's happening. And IKEA is buying 100 more. So they're throwing another 2 billion at
yeah,
it.
yeah.
You know,
But Dan, I don't know, man. There's also that other, I mean, I don't know. I have a slightly differing opinion in the sense that there's a lot more smaller players in the ecosystem than there are the bigger players.
yeah.
But some of the bigger players are okay with 90% of the revenue coming from the 10%. I mean, they're okay with that.
Winner
Is
take
that
most.
what's that?
Winner take most.
Yeah. But I think like if you really focus on, I mean, Dan, how many startup biotechs are there in the Bay Area, in the Research
Oh,
Triangle,
I mean,
in Florida,
every
in
day,
Tennessee? I mean, it's insane. There's thousands,
and there'll
right?
be more.
And there'll be more.
There'll be
That's where the
more.
innovation really, comes to life. And I'm just saying, like, those people, who are those people going to use? Independent sites or conglomerates?
They're gonna want to use whoever can produce predictability. First of all, whoever wants to work with them, because a lot of these site networks, the big ones, are gonna get bougie and say, "Who are you? Nah,
There
nah,
are,
we don't want to
well,
work with you."
yeah,
They're
but
gonna
Dan, the
want to work
pricing
with Eli
structures too.
Lilly. They're gonna want to work with the big ones. The smaller ones, you know how like the IRBs are right now.
Yeah.
What happens when a small, no name biotech calls one of the big IRBs? Eh, we could care less.
Can't, I
Right?
mean,
Is it
I
not true?
mean, yeah. Well, it's not actually. No, it's Dan. I got to tell you another story. I just got this email. It's. I have to show it to you. You're gonna be like, is this real? I literally got an email from one of the. I mean, there's like two. So pick.
Yeah, two or three.
I
Yeah.
should probably not even say this
They own
live.
sites too, by the way. Just
But
as
Dan,
a
what I'm
footnote to
trying to
this
say is, I get
video.
an email and it says, "Hi, Robert. I am the director of your company, and I'm here to make sure all your trials are." I'm like, since when are we like? I didn't know we even had an engagement with you. Like, what do you mean you're the oversight director of my company? What? This
They're
is
your
from one of
over.
the like. I have to show you this email. It's like I was so confused. I literally reached out. I'm like, did we have an like what? who did this behind my back? You know what I mean? It was that, but
Well, when you don't
I
have
think
competition, you have this kind of environment, and that maybe that's site networks. Maybe there's always going to be enough independence to keep them honest. I
yeah,
hope. I think so. But we're just trying to tell the sites what to do right now because of what I think is happening. Actually, we will get Dr. Ali on. And
definitely.
Preeti, you actually have this PM. How does the project manager and other roles will work? I actually think the coordinator is going to be that.
Yeah, the project manager is no longer. It's gonna. Yeah, that's a role that's already being diversified and consumed into other roles. It's
Into
just.
it's tech or overseas.
Yeah, I
You know how
mean,
many
look,
project managers are in Mexico City right now, working for all the big CRO.
Dan, I just talked to a friend of mine who's, an insider at one of the CROs, and
Yeah,
it's like everything is being offshored, like
yeah. But
everything.
do you know what I need as a site owner? Do you know what all of my coordinators are slowly becoming with all these workflows? They're all
Project
slowly
managers,
becoming project managers.
of course they are.
Yeah.
They're managing patients, they're managing
Yep.
vendors, they're managing CROs, they're managing even the sponsor to a degree, you know?
We will be speaking tomorrow. Darshan's already
Yes, we
making
will.
noise.
Oh, here
How's
he
it going?
is.
The
Oh, he's
hardest
back.
working man, the hardest working man I know. This dude's always around, even when he's sailing the world. Ashley, what does that even mean, though? I wouldn't trust anyone Google certified either. I don't know what you're talking about. My studies have clinical trial educators now. Yeah, we all do too. I see more onshoring to the AI and the like, moving towards agentic AI. Yeah, look at
Yeah, yeah,
Tilda. Look at
yeah.
someone like Tilda AI. They're already
Hmm.
doing this. So listen, man, it's gonna be an interesting decade. I do think sites need to start acting like mini networks,
No,
uh,
I
or
agree. Listen,
or
Dan,
enjoy this last decade. But then,
it's no different than an army, right? I mean, like, I hate to bring in like weird analogies, but it's like, you're stronger in numbers. It's just the way it is, you know? It's just,
but
it's
it's
just the
better to
way it
be
is.
closer to the formation of that army than one of the last add-ons. I think.
Exactly. Exactly. So you have a choice. Like I said, get on the
Mhm.
train when you can while it's at the station, and then once it's left, it's like, but I still I really do believe, Dan. I mean, from the small innovation that comes out of small biotech, medtech, biopharma, small. I still think there's a real heavy use case for the private sites, where I can.
Maybe. Okay.
I, I,
Okay.
I really do. I
That's
feel like,
probably a 10-part series of why we are, because I think this is true.
yeah,
Starting the golden era for biotechs.
yes.
And not a small part of that has to do with China.
And I think that's why, like, small sponsors, there's a big announcement coming around small sponsors, right, Dan? Right?
We got, yes.
So this is what I
Ashley's,
mean about
will be
it.
speaking tomorrow,
Yes, we
Robert.
will be.
Yep.
We will be.
I think
We
we
will
are.
be.
Do you think we are entering the golden era for biotechs too?
What do you
It's been
mean
a
by that?
decade of
What do you mean by the golden era of biotech?
less risky for them to navigate the system. I think China's helping out a lot with the preclinical now that the NIH or
Um,
private industry used to have to do.
well, are you talking device or pharma?
Both. Both.
Okay, well, I'm going to send you an article from the FDA that they just published today that might change your mind on that. But
I
anyways,
saw the Macquarie talk about that.
oh, okay.
But nonetheless, this was already happening with China doing the preclinical overseas and then getting the drug, the IP. And like, yeah, you can argue, well, they're gonna steal the IP. Well, who cares? You're not going to the Chinese market anyways.
Mm.
Now you're coming in with more data and more confidence to spend money on phase 2 and 3 here in the United States.
Yeah.
And faster.
Well,
Faster
Dan,
too.
that's happening now, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
like,
happening now.
and biotechs are actually looking at other, other entry points in terms of like world geography on where maybe there's less regulatory burden or there's less red tape or we can get a trial stood up a lot quicker, and for a lot cheaper. And we're going to go get our early phase data,
Yeah.
and then we're going to come into the US at a phase two situation, right? Um, I think it's happening now. I'm literally seeing it with my very eyes because it's just it's
Well, then we know what the next Guru After Dark is, because
yeah.
this one we got to wrap up. But Darshan, we got to get you on, man. Welcome back, by the way, stateside.
Darshan is right. The IP will be ignored, and that's why I'm not talking China though, Darshan. I'm talking like, you know, other places where you have a better chance of IP being honored.
Darshan, After Dark next week, guys. Everyone can follow Robert right now. Thank you for watching. We got to run. Like,
Yes.
subscribe, comment, share. Go follow Robert right now.
See you guys.
Bye bye.